I just want to make sure I'm live on Facebook. Need to go live on Facebook. Guys, how's it going? It's your boy MKS here, back in another video. Finally back at you with part 2 of whatever this is. And I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I know in part 1 I talked about like how I would love for dyslexics to make design things for Halloween, Friday the 13th, even Friday the 13th, even the 13th of each month, to make things like scary videos, scary YouTube videos, reacting to scary videos on social media and things like that, scary masks, costumes and things like that. Even like reacting, as I say, to scary videos on YouTube, Facebook, and record TikTok or whatnot, and things like that. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, this is as I say, part 2. I was just trying to think of new things to cover and record. As I said, finally back with another video because, excuse me, I went for my granddad nap. I woke up late already, about 1 o'clock or something like that, and I went for my granddad nap. My poor mum had to wake up and feed the cat for her. But anyway, I went for my granddad nap as well, about just after 5, like half 5 or something like that. Between 5 and half 5 or something like that. But anyway, and then it took me like 3 hours to get put the rest of me out of bed. So it took me about 3 hours to get up, and then I went for a walk, had my dinner and that kind of thing, and then trying to avoid procrastination, had a bit of a snack or pudding or whatever, gingerbread man or whatever, and then came to make this video, and that's where I'm now. So yeah, that's why it took me so long. But anywho, these are pointers number 11 to 20 as per usual, and hopefully nothing goes too wrong. But here you go. So number 11, I was trying to think of things that I would cover. By the way, I hope my voice is loud enough. I do struggle to project my voice. I'm quite effeminate with a effeminate monotone voice, I guess. But if I'm honest, but as you can probably tell. But I was trying to think of new things to cover because I think of point number 11 as like new and that kind of thing, and also try and think of new things generally, but especially in point number 11. But I was thinking like about how I'd love for dyslexics to change the world and change the perception, the world's perception of us, perception of the world and the world's perception of us. But I know that's not particularly new, but I was trying to think of any new ideas, but I was struggling, to be honest with you. Even when I went for a walk, next time for about 10-minute or 15-minute walk around the block, I was still struggling to think of ideas. But yeah, I suppose thinking of some of the negatives, like about my monotone voice, and my quiet feminine voice and things like that. But yeah, I was trying to think also about, there's many things I would love to change about the world. I've talked about it before, like what I put into room 101. For those outside the UK, I don't know if you use the same term, but 101 is a show about a metaphorical room, if that's the right word, where normally celebrities, sometimes it's just people generally, talk about what they would put into this room just to get rid of. Like sometimes I jokingly say weddings, marriages, monogamy, formal relationships, commitment and that kind of thing. Some commitment phobe, but and being aromantic and all that kind of thing. But I wouldn't really put them into room 101, those things. I suppose most things I would just have less of rather than get rid of completely. There's not many things I would get rid of completely. The only thing I'd probably get rid of completely pretty much is something that makes people or living things suffer more than they can bear. Anything that makes any living thing, any person or animal or living thing suffer more than they can bear, I'd probably get rid of that. That's about it. I wouldn't really care much if weddings came to an end tomorrow or whatever, or yesteryear even. Yeah, there's lots of things about the world I would love to change. Maybe dyslexics could talk about things, other dyslexics could talk about things that you would change about the world, any dyslexics watching out there. But I'd love to support each other on social media, which would help each other for when we can't get jobs. I guess one thing I fear is my ideas not getting formalised. And moving on the subject of fears, number 12, I have a lot of fears, I've got to admit. I think I've got better at, I suppose I have, but I shouldn't say, but giving my enemies a secret, but I'm not sure how many enemies, but why are they hate me? I'm adorable. But on a serious note, like, I guess I fear fire, but also like darkness. I woke up when I was in Tunisia once, in a farm in Tunisia. I woke up and it was pitch black, and I was terrified. And I imagined like the devil laughing at me and stuff like that. And once I was stuck in a lift, and I imagined if there was a power cut. Luckily, I had other people with me in the lift, but if I was on my own, it would probably be even more scarier. At the time, I didn't really think about it. I thought I was going to be stuck in this lift forever. And all my imagination, I guess dyslexics have a vivid imagination. I had to go on a course to overcome my fear of flying. I suppose I fear making a fool of myself, which I should probably be used to. I guess I fear making mistakes and failing, but I guess we've got to embrace that to learn from it. I guess in a way, it's hard to do, but and as human beings, I think we're afraid of making fools of ourselves and making mistakes, but that is part of, excuse the corny expression, but growing. And I think most businesses, or pretty much all businesses, probably have made a mistake and failed at some point. Talking about business or even different areas, like even movie makers, filmmakers, or whatever you want to call them, people who write books. I'm sure not every book they make or every film they make is going to be a hit. And the more you make, the more you're more likely to make flops, if you like. But yeah, I do fear, obviously, my videos boring people, offending people, or again, my voice not being clear enough. Sometimes my video not having the right lighting, whether I'm good enough, I guess, or my past catches up on me, like all my failures and mistakes or things I'm ashamed of. See the things I've said and done, and that kind of thing. Think about the negatives. As I talked about in part one, I was thinking about I want to talk about the negatives today rather than the positive, just because it's the 13th. But yeah, I think that covers everything for point number 12. I'm glad I just thought about that now. Like talking about some of the negatives and things that demotivate me. Like, I think in the world, people say you're not a real man if you're not brave, or if you're not tough, or if you're not brave, like amateur or tough, and like providing, protecting, all that kind of thing. Even though they say equality, all that kind of thing. But I've got to be careful what I say. Again, I fear offending people. Like sometimes when I send people messages, if I send too much messages, is it too many messages? Does it come across as spam or whatever, and that kind of thing, and all that jazz. But I guess one silly first world fear is like fearing, like if people disturb my videos. I don't want to preempt this because my mum's out and I think she's lost her key. So I hope she doesn't knock on the door in the middle of the video, and she'll be really annoyed if I don't open the door. But yeah, that's really annoying when that happens. But yeah, I hope it won't be too bad. To be fair, a lot of the time when it's the 13th, I don't want to jinx it, but it's not as bad as I think it's going to be. But yeah, I think I'm going to move on to point 30. I'm just trying to think, yeah, as I say, things that demotivate me. Like, when I made my YouTube channel, I wanted to monetize it within like a year or less, preferably. I wanted to get loads of videos. I'd love to go viral and stuff like that. So I fear people not enjoying my content or not getting my ideas off the ground. I think I might have mentioned it in part one, and I mentioned it in the past. Maybe for the 13th, next 13th, in January, maybe, if I remember, I might cover like my fears, 40 of my fears, confess to some of my fears. Although, again, I shouldn't give my enemies fuel to scare me or whatever. But moving on, number 13. I hope that Celtic don't mess up tomorrow. I know it's a first world fear again, but I fear that our manager is not good enough, our new manager for Celtic, and I do fear that maybe he's not cut out for the Scottish League, and realising what pressure he's took. So I really hope we don't mess up winning this trophy. And then not that I want to be complacent. I want to give everyone, our opponents or opposition, kudos or credits or whatever. By the way, if anyone's watching on Facebook, I'm using my YouTube screen. I dare not use the split screen sort of thing. I want to use it, but so I can focus on both screens and see both comments. Although it would be quite distracting, but it would be good to see both screens at the same time. But I don't. It seems like YouTube thinks I'm making multiple channels or some sort of scam or something like that. So I'm hoping that. I mean, now they've checked. They said we're going to review your channel and check it. So I'm hoping that it's all good. But I dare not do the split screen thing just in case. But maybe I don't know. I'd like to try that, but I did want to try the split screen thing. But every time I try it, something goes wrong. I certainly don't want to try it now. But yeah, my fears about Italian teams not doing well. When I put the playlist, I ticked what playlist this video would go under, and I decided not to click Celtic because normally my support for Italian football, like AC Milan and teams like that, Milan, Roma, and the rest of the Italian football national team, whatever, is more of a selfish thing. But I thought I'd just stick with that for the 13th. But I do have fears about Celtic, like not winning, messing up, like same mirror winning the cup, and then Hearts winning the league. If we go trophyless, it looks like at least our rivals are anchors are hopefully not going to win any trophies this season, but you never know. And I suppose we are 2 ahead of them. I wish we were 3 ahead of them because we messed up in our last final. Excuse me, against Aberdeen. But anyway, I'll talk more about Celtic tomorrow. But my selfish dreams about Italian football doing well. I say that's one of my guilty pleasures, and I support Italian football from a selfish point of view. Number 14, struggling to find solutions is another negative thing. I'm thinking about more generally. I've realised that I've gone off track about talking about the dyslexia stuff as well. But I'd love for dyslexics to talk about some of the struggles they face and the challenges of finding solutions. Number 15, my fears about the world and people suffering is another fear I have more generally. But yeah, I'd love to know again what dyslexics think about like fears about the world and life, jobs, and whatever. I'm hoping that, and I hope I don't jinx it if I mention it on 30. I haven't mentioned it before. That a lot of these ideas I don't start on 13 because if I can help it, because I think of like 13 as unlucky, as I said before. But even though it's not a Friday, but which is what most people think of as like 13 as being a scary thing. But I'm hoping that I almost forgot to say my point. I'm hoping that by having a group where we help each other, like on social media, support each other's social media channels, supporting each other's businesses, startups, SMEs, and whatnot around the world, and just generally supporting each other and having each other's back rather than being sold or like sole traders, startups, all that kind of thing, and rather than being like small teams. I think most people are either sold, like they work by themselves, or they are in small teams. Like a lot of people have a lot of friends, but then they only, in terms of work, you don't know who your real friends are as well. Or they have a lot of friends on paper at least, or so to speak. A lot of people that they think are friends, or like they go drinking with, but maybe those friends bring them back and don't encourage them to achieve their potential. But then when it comes to business or working as a group, or whatever, they like to be sole. They like to be on their own. So I think a lot of business people are probably the opposite. They have teamworks and networks, but when it comes to going out, they only have a small circle of friends or whatever, 1 or 2 friends. Like if you look at someone like Elon Musk or Bill Gates, they probably have a small circle of friends, but they delegate and work with people in business. I think I could be wrong, but I think that's how it goes. Number 16, I would say when I made these videos, when I decided to make part 1 and these videos today, I was struggling for content to create. But I suppose the main thing I was thinking of is, and I still kind of am struggling to think of content, if I'm honest, but a few ideas have come to me, thankfully. Like point number 12 was a bit, what's the word? Random. I wasn't planning it. It sort of came to me randomly. But yeah, I fear, and one of my weaknesses is overthinking. But yeah, it would be interesting if dyslexics talk about our weaknesses. And I think in doing so, you can actually look at like Richard Branson, a dyslexic entrepreneur, talks about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And if you know your weaknesses, limitations, and whatnot, like Warren Buffett says, you can make sure you stick to what you do know. Like he says, your circle of competence, as he puts it. You'd only know, I think him and his late partner in business, his partner in crime, his partner in business, Charlie Munger, said, it's only a circle of competence if you know the edge of it or something like that. So knowing your limitations and knowing your strengths and weaknesses. So if you know you're weak at something, you can delegate that to someone else. So if some dyslexics are weak at, like me, I have dyspraxia as well, so I'm not very good at using my hands. But if I can network with other dyslexics who are good at using their hands, like to make things, I'll say like my costumes, decorations, or whatever, who are good at practical sort of stuff, then we can network together. Like I could share an idea with them, like making Halloween masks and costumes and decorations and all that good stuff, or bad stuff, whatever you want to see it. so I could share the ideas with them, and they could share, like they could put it into action and do all the work. Probably not. Number 17. One thing though that dyslexics have is a vivid imagination. For me, because I have quite a paranoid and anxious mind, paranoid, anxious, depressed, possibly even schizophrenic sometimes, or whatever, self-diagnosed or whatever. But I don't know if I should admit those things, but because I have those sorts of fears, horror movies and thrillers are more something I can relate to. Like being a romantic, even though I'm quite effeminate, being a romantic is not, romance is not something I can sort of relate to very much. Maybe a little bit, but not that much. But I wouldn't really watch a romantic movie, and think I can sort of get into that. I don't really watch many movies or films, but if I do, even though I'm easily scared, I prefer horror movies or thrillers probably to an extent. Although I tried to watch House of a Thousand Corpses, and I'm ashamed to admit that I feel a bit of a chicken and all that kind of thing. But I am ashamed to admit that, say that I couldn't watch it all because I was going through a paranoid, anxious sort of thing. Even though I knew deep down it was a movie, for some reason it just freaked me out, and I started going through a panic attack, and I couldn't watch it, and I felt a bit ashamed. I thought, it's only a movie, what's wrong with me? Maybe I could try again and try and be more braver and realise it is only a movie. But at the same time, if you say it's only a movie, it kind of ruins it when you feel it's sort of real. But yeah, I don't know why, but I guess even though I'm easily scared, I guess it's because it's what my mind can relate to. It's like what they say about passion and things like that. Although some people dispute and debate whether you should follow your passion or whatever. But some people say you've got to be passionate about what you do, otherwise it's really hard to get yourself motivated to do something you don't like or even hate. Which reminds me of something I meant to say. Italian football, where I mentioned, ask in my videos yesterday, I'm sure the day before. Anyway, moving on. Number 18, but yeah, that is part of the. I know I'm thinking more of the negatives, but I wish, may you find light in the dark, light in your darkest of hours, and hope when at your worst. Hope at your worst of times. And some say happy. Light can be found in the dark. All you have to do is light a candle or whatever. But I guess you can find it. But I was thinking like how dyslexic imagination is kind of a positive trait, I guess. Again, I know I'm thinking a bit negatively because it's a 13 or rather negatively, but it is something we could turn into a positive. Number 19, as I fear illnesses, diseases, natural disasters, what's happening in Japan, like with earthquakes and volcanoes and things like that. Paranoid conspiracy theories, maybe even schizophrenic conspiracy theories, and whether I'll get my ideas off the ground, like helping Africa in tech and things like that, whether I would ever get around to doing those things and helping people in developing nations in STEM and that kind of thing. And number 20, I suppose I question my own ideas and ideals sometimes, and I guess it's a bad thing in some ways, but it's a good thing in other ways. Because I think sometimes you should challenge your own views and allow yourself to. I know I can be very stubborn at the same time, but I think you should allow. People allow different views to influence you. Like, obviously, you can't follow all views, but like, say if I'm debating something, I think it would be good to listen to an alternative point of view, or alternative point of views in the plural, even sometimes at least, to try and get the argument on both sides, like to accept there's two sides to an argument, whatever. Whether that's about feminism or left or right wing paradoxes or whatever, or probably shouldn't use words I don't know, but then my vocabulary would be very limited. But the initial point I was going to mention, but yeah, like the saying, respect your elders, or when people say, excuse me, I'm older than you, and should call Milliam simply, I'm older than you, and that kind of thing. That's my least favourite saying. And like, to me, we should hold older people to a higher standard. Like, I probably shouldn't think of this, but I imagine, like, if someone, or I think about, like, at least, if like someone who's under 18 hit me where it hurts, hit me in the groinal area. Again, I probably shouldn't think of something like that, but if they did hit me there, or they hit me in the stomach, or basically just hit me somewhere, punched me in my eye or nose or uppercut or whatever it might be, it'd be hard to say whether I'd react or how I'd react or whatever. But I don't know, maybe if they're prepared to give it, if they're big enough to give it, maybe they should take it back. But I'd hold them to a lower standard because they're under 18. But if someone's older than 18, I think that the older you are, the higher standard you should stick to. And you might think I'm biased, but I'm quite old myself. I'm not old, miserable old Fergie myself, get myself. But like, I think the older people, like myself included, should be teaching younger people how to have good manners. And I don't think it should be the other way around. But if someone could say like why we should, so I'd ask people if I could, like, why should we respect the elders? Similar with relationships, like people say males benefit from weddings and marriages and all that kind of thing. I'd probably say one of the reasons why I love lists is because people would then, if they were listed, one, it helps me to organise myself and all that kind of thing, and cover certain points and whatever. And I try not to cover too many or too little or whatever. But then they'd have to list it. Or if you got a plain piece of paper, a plain white piece of paper, preferably white, because I prefer to leave the others for like artists or whatever. But if you drew down the middle, I'd love to give papers, unlined papers as I call them, like including blue, green, and others, to sort of artists, especially in developing nations, and sometimes ones who draw pictures for Italian football, like dyslexic artists in Italy, for instance. But if you drew a line down the middle and you said pros and cons, or what the woman benefits from a marriage, and what a man benefits from a marriage, I think then it would be hot. Then you could look at an argument and say you actually have the numbers to prove it. Like if you had a long list, like women can benefit financially, financial security, emotional support. I think women are more social than us. They need that company and all that kind of thing. More societal support and also support your spouse or whatever, whereas blokes have to pay for that stuff. So then where you're sort of losing. But if you looked at an advantage blokes get from marriage, I can't actually think of any. But if someone wanted to take that argument and say actually blokes are the ones that benefit from marriage, I'd say okay, but can you list a benefit blokes get, or can you list some benefits that blokes get versus the benefits females get, if you know what I mean? Hope that makes sense. But yeah, I think if you did that, you could talk about both sides of an argument. Again, a big question I would ask, for instance, is why should we respect the elders? Why should we say, oh, I'm older than you, should be able to do what I tell you to do? And I think when people say they're older, they don't deserve good health that much, because it makes you a lazy, fat hypocrite. But anyway, before I offend anyone else, just even my honest opinions. Anyway, I am out, and peace and love.